The morning sun cast golden rays across the Columbus Community Fairgrounds, painting everything in that perfect summer glow that made the world look like a postcard. It was June 17th, 2023, and the annual Riverside Community Fair was already in full swing by 10 a.m. The air was thick with the irresistible aroma of fresh funnel cakes, buttered popcorn, and sizzling hot dogs from the food vendors lining the main walkway. Children's laughter echoed from the carnival rides, mixing with the cheerful music from the carousel and the enthusiastic shouts of game booth operators trying to lure in customers. Officer Mike Richardson pulled his patrol car into the designated law enforcement parking area, killing the engine with a satisfied sigh. In the back seat, separated by the protective barrier, his partner was already alert and eager. "All right, Rex, this is your favorite part," Mike said with a grin, glancing in the rearview mirror at the magnificent German shepherd whose ears had perked up at the sound of his name. Rex was a sight to behold, a powerful, muscular canine with a rich black and tan coat that gleamed in the sunlight, intelligent brown eyes that seemed to understand everything, and an air of quiet confidence that came from years of professional training. At 7 years old, Rex was in his prime, a decorated member of the Columbus Police Department's K-9 unit with an impressive track record that included dozens of successful search and rescue operations, narcotics busts, and apprehensions. Mike opened the rear door, and Rex bounded out with controlled enthusiasm, immediately sitting at attention beside his handler. They'd been partners for 6 years now, and their bond went far beyond the professional. Rex lived with Mike, played with Mike's 2 daughters, and had become as much a part of the Richardson family as any human member. "Looking sharp today, buddy," Mike said, checking Rex's official K-9 vest and collar. The vest bore the Columbus Police Department insignia and the words K-9 unit in bold letters. Rex's badge number, K9247, gleamed on his collar. Mike himself had donned his dress uniform for the occasion, complete with all his commendations and his perfectly pressed navy blue shirt. At 42 years old, Mike Richardson had dedicated 15 years of his life to serving the Columbus community. He'd seen the worst of humanity, the violence, the tragedy, the senseless cruelty that sometimes made him question everything. But events like this, they reminded him of the good. They reminded him why he'd taken the oath in the first place. "Officer Richardson, over here." A young sergeant named Danny Miller waved from the police department's booth, which had been set up near the center of the fairgrounds. The department had gone all out this year. Banners, interactive displays about police work, a table stacked with coloring books and stickers for kids, and even a mini obstacle course where children could try out some basic K-9 training exercises. Mike and Rex made their way through the growing crowd, and heads immediately turned. There was something magnetic about a police K-9 that drew people in, especially children. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, tugged on his father's shirt and pointed excitedly. "Daddy, look, a police dog, can I pet him?" Mike smiled warmly. This was the part of the job that filled his tank when everything else tried to drain it. "In just a few minutes, buddy. We're setting up right over there," he said, gesturing toward the booth. "You come see us, okay?" The boy's face lit up like Christmas morning, and he practically dragged his father toward the booth to get in line early. By the time Mike and Rex reached their designated area, a crowd was already gathering. Sergeant Miller had done an excellent job with the setup. There were informational posters about how K-9 units work, the different types of police dogs and their specialties, and even a photo timeline showing Rex's career highlights. "Looks like we're going to have a busy day," Mike remarked, surveying the line of eager families already forming. "The busiest," Danny confirmed with a grin. "Ever since we posted about Rex on the department's social media, people have been asking when they could meet him. I think half of Columbus showed up today just to see your partner." Rex, for his part, seemed to sense the excitement in the air. His tail wagged slowly, and his eyes scanned the crowd with that trademark K-9 alertness, always watching, always aware, but radiating a calm, friendly energy that put people at ease. "All right, boy, you ready for your public?" Mike asked, scratching Rex behind the ears in that special spot that always made the dog's back leg kick slightly. Rex responded with an enthusiastic bark that made several children in the line squeal with delight. Mike took his position beside a demonstration area where he'd show off some of Rex's skills: basic obedience, tracking demonstrations, and even some protection work, carefully controlled and safe for spectators, of course. The department had provided tennis balls, training props, and plenty of Rex's favorite treats. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls," Sergeant Miller announced through a microphone, "Officer Mike Richardson and K9 Rex are ready to meet you. We'll be doing demonstrations every hour, and in between, you're welcome to come up, ask questions, and if Rex and Officer Richardson say it's okay, you might even get to pet our hardest-working officer." The crowd applauded, and the first family approached, a mother with twin girls who looked to be about 8 years old. They were practically vibrating with excitement. "Is he friendly?" one of the girls asked nervously. "Rex is very friendly when he's not working," Mike explained patiently. "Right now, he's in what we call community mode. That means he's here to be your friend. Here, hold out your hand like this, let him sniff you first, then you can pet his back." The girls followed his instructions carefully, and within seconds, they were giggling as Rex's tail wagged, and he gently nuzzled their hands. This was what Mike lived for, these moments of pure joy, of connection between law enforcement and the community they served. After the challenging calls, the dangerous situations, and the long nights, days like this restored his faith in the job. As the morning progressed, Mike and Rex met dozens of families. They posed for countless photos, performed demonstrations that drew applause and cheers, and answered hundreds of questions about police work. Mike talked about Rex's training, their partnership, and the important work K9 units do in communities across the country. "Ready, boy?" Mike asked during a quiet moment between demonstrations, scratching Rex's favorite spot again. The K9 gave an excited bark and wagged his tail. Little did Mike know, this sunny Saturday, which had started like so many other community events, was about to transform into something extraordinary. Somewhere in the crowd, making her way slowly through the fairgrounds, was a little girl who held a secret, a memory that should have been impossible, a connection that would soon stun everyone present and remind Mike Richardson that sometimes, the lives we touch remember us in ways we never imagine. The next family approached the booth, and Mike smiled his welcoming smile, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. 3-year-old Emma Martinez stood in front of her bedroom mirror, her tiny fingers fumbling with the buttons on her favorite yellow sundress, the one with the white daisies that her grandmother had bought her for her birthday. Her mother, Sophia Martinez, knelt beside her, gently helping with the last button that always seemed to escape Emma's small hands. "There we go, Mija," Sophia said softly, smoothing down Emma's dark curls. "You look beautiful. Are you excited about the fair?" Emma nodded, but she didn't speak. She rarely did anymore. Sophia's heart ached as she looked at her daughter's reflection. 6 months ago, Emma had been a different child, a whirlwind of energy, constantly singing, chattering away about everything and nothing, filling their home with the kind of joyful noise that only a happy toddler can create. She'd narrate her entire day, make up songs about her stuffed animals, and ask an endless stream of why questions that sometimes exhausted Sophia but mostly made her laugh. Then came December 15th, 2023, the day that changed everything. Sophia could still feel the cold terror that had gripped her heart when she turned around in Polaris Fashion Place Mall and Emma was just gone. One moment, Emma had been right beside her, looking at a display of Christmas ornaments. The next moment, in the span of what couldn't have been more than 30 seconds, she had vanished into the crowded holiday shopping chaos. The 3 hours that followed were the worst of Sophia's life. The frantic searching, calling Emma's name until her voice went hoarse, the security guards, the police officers, the paramedics on standby. Every minute that ticked by felt like an eternity. Every dark scenario her mind conjured was worse than the last. Sophia had prayed harder than she'd ever prayed in her life. When the police K9 unit finally found Emma in a maintenance corridor, frightened, crying but physically unharmed, Sophia had been so overwhelmed with relief that everything else became a blur. She remembered crying, remembered holding Emma so tight she was afraid she might hurt her, remembered thanking God and the first responders who surrounded them. But the specific details, the officer's name, the dog's appearance, what exactly had been said, all of it was lost in the tsunami of emotion and adrenaline. What Sophia did remember clearly was the aftermath. Emma stopped talking. Not completely, she would whisper to Sophia occasionally, nod or shake her head, sometimes say yes or no in the quietest voice imaginable. But the singing, the constant chatter, the joyful noise, gone. Trauma response, the child psychologist Dr. Chen had explained. Emma's young brain is processing a terrifying experience. The silence is a coping mechanism. With time, patience, and therapy, she should recover, but we can't rush her. 6 months of therapy had brought small improvements. Emma would occasionally speak in full sentences at home, always in a whisper. She'd started playing with her toys again, though more quietly than before. She could go to the grocery store without panicking, as long as Sophia held her hand the entire time. Progress, Dr. Chen called it, but to Sophia it felt painfully slow. "Sophia, Emma, are you ready?" Rosa Martinez, Sophia's mother, called from downstairs. At 63, Rosa was a force of nature, a woman who'd raised 3 children on her own after Sophia's father passed away, who'd crossed the border from Mexico 35 years ago with nothing but determination and hope, who'd worked 2 jobs to give her children opportunities she'd never had. "Coming, Mama," Sophia called back, taking Emma's hand. The little girl's grip was immediate and tight, always tight in public, as if Sophia might disappear if she let go. They made their way downstairs where Rosa waited by the door, her purse already on her shoulder. "Ay, que linda," she exclaimed, seeing Emma. "My beautiful granddaughter, we're going to have so much fun today, yes." Emma offered a small smile but said nothing. The drive to the Riverside Community Fair took 20 minutes. Rosa kept up a steady stream of cheerful conversation from the passenger seat, telling Emma about all the things they'd see. The animals, the games, the food. Sophia watched her daughter in the rearview mirror, nodding the way Emma's eyes darted nervously to the windows, the way her little hands gripped the edges of her car seat. "It's okay, Mija," Sophia said gently. "We're going somewhere fun. Grandma and I will be with you the whole time. I promise I won't let go of your hand." The fairgrounds were already packed when they arrived. Sophia felt Emma's hand tighten in hers the moment they stepped out of the car. The crowd, the noise, the chaos of activity. It was a lot for a child who'd been lost in a crowd before. "Do you want me to carry you?" Sophia asked. Emma shook her head but pressed closer to Sophia's leg. They made their way through the entrance, Rosa leading the way with her characteristic confidence. "Look, Emma, balloons!" She pointed to a vendor selling colorful helium balloons shaped like cartoon characters. "Would you like one?" Emma looked but didn't respond. They passed a face-painting booth where children sat patiently, while artists transformed them into butterflies, tigers, and superheroes. They walked by a bouncy castle where kids screamed with delight as they jumped and tumbled. They stopped at a game booth where Rosa won Emma a small stuffed teddy bear by knocking down milk bottles. Emma accepted the bear with a whisper-soft thank you, but Sophia could see her daughter wasn't really engaged. It was like Emma was there physically but not emotionally, going through the motions, trying to please her mother and grandmother, but not experiencing any real joy. "Ice cream," Sophia suggested hopefully as they approached a vendor. "Your favorite strawberry." Emma nodded, and Sophia bought 3 cones. They found a shaded bench to sit and eat, Rosa chattering away about the beautiful weather, the nice families, the wonderful activities. Sophia watched Emma take small, mechanical licks of her ice cream and felt that familiar ache in her chest. Would her daughter ever be the same again? Would that sparkle ever return to her eyes? Would Sophia ever hear Emma sing again? "Come on," Rosa said, finishing her cone and standing up. "Let's walk around some more. Maybe we'll find something exciting." They continued through the fairgrounds, Emma's hand never leaving Sophia's. They passed craft booths, food vendors, a small petting zoo. Nothing seemed to capture Emma's attention. Then, as they rounded a corner near the center of the fairgrounds, Emma suddenly stopped walking. Her entire body went rigid. "Emma?" Sophia asked, concerned. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" But Emma wasn't having a panic attack. Her eyes were locked on something ahead of them, wide, focused, and for the first time in 6 months, truly alive with recognition. Sophia followed her daughter's gaze and saw a police department booth with crowds of people gathered around. She could see officers in uniform, children lined up, and Emma's hand slipped from Sophia's grasp. "Emma," Sophia called out, alarmed. As her 3-year-old daughter did something she hadn't done in months, she ran. Not away from Sophia, towards something. Emma's little legs pumped as fast as they could carry her, her yellow sundress billowing behind her, her dark curls bouncing. People turned to look, some smiling at the sight of the eager child, others moving aside to let her pass. "Emma," Sophia shouted, chasing after her, her heart pounding. Rosa hurried behind them both, calling Emma's name. But Emma had a destination in mind, and nothing was going to stop her. She ran straight toward the police booth, straight toward the crowd, straight toward a German Shepherd. A magnificent dog with brown eyes and an official K9 vest, sitting calmly beside an officer in a dress uniform. Emma skidded to a stop directly in front of the dog, and then, in a voice louder and clearer than Sophia had heard in half a year, her daughter spoke words that made the entire world seem to stop spinning. "That's the nice doggy. He found me." Time seemed to freeze. The cheerful carnival music faded into background noise. The laughter and chatter of the crowd became a distant hum. In that single, crystallized moment, everyone within earshot of the little girl's declaration turned to stare. Sophia Martinez stood paralyzed, her hand still outstretched from where Emma had slipped away, her mouth open in shock. The words her daughter had just shouted, clear, confident, loud, echoed in her ears like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. "That's the nice doggy. He found me." Officer Mike Richardson blinked, completely bewildered. He'd been in the middle of explaining K9 training procedures to an elderly couple when the small child had appeared out of nowhere, running at full speed toward Rex. His hand had instinctively moved to steady his partner, but Rex hadn't needed the guidance. The German Shepherd had remained perfectly still, his ears perked forward, his intelligent eyes fixed on the little girl with an intensity Mike had rarely seen. "I'm sorry, what?" Mike managed to say, looking down at the tiny figure in the yellow sundress who was now standing inches from Rex, her small chest heaving from the run, her dark eyes sparkling with recognition and something else, joy pure and unfiltered. Emma didn't answer the officer. She was completely focused on Rex, her small hand reaching out slowly, tentatively, as if greeting an old friend she wasn't sure would remember her. "Emma, oh my God, Emma." Sophia finally found her legs and rushed forward, her heart hammering in her chest. She reached her daughter just as Emma's fingers made contact with Rex's fur. "I'm so sorry, officer," she just ran off. "She never does that, I don't know what." Then Sophia's words died in her throat, as the full meaning of what Emma had said hit her like a freight train. "The nice doggy, he found me." Sophia's vision blurred with sudden tears as memories came flooding back, memories she tried to lock away because they were too painful, too terrifying to revisit. December 15th. The mall. The crowd, turning around to find Emma gone. The panic, the screaming, the security guards, the announcement over the loudspeaker, the police arriving. And then a K-9 unit, a German Shepherd, an officer with a dog tracking, searching, moving with purpose through the mall corridors, the radio crackling. The words she'd been desperate to hear. We found her. The child is safe. Sophia had been rushed to a service corridor where Emma was being comforted by paramedics. Her baby had been crying, frightened, her face red and streaked with tears. Sophia had grabbed Emma and held her so tight, sobbing into her daughter's hair, thanking God over and over. There had been people everywhere, security personnel, police officers, paramedics, curious onlookers. Someone had said something about a K-9 track, about the dog finding Emma's scent, about how lucky they were. But Sophia had been so overwhelmed, so consumed by relief and residual terror, that she'd barely registered the details. She'd thanked the first responders, all of them, anyone in uniform, but she'd never gotten names, never saw which specific dog had tracked her daughter. The police had asked her a few questions, filled out a report, and then left to respond to another emergency. Sophia had taken Emma home and spent the rest of that night holding her, crying, praying, promising never to let anything happen to her baby again. And now, 6 months later, here was Emma, Emma who barely spoke, Emma who'd been so traumatized by that day, recognizing the dog who'd saved her. "Ma'am," Officer Richardson's voice cut through Sophia's racing thoughts. "Ma'am, is your daughter saying that Rex, that we, found her, when, where?" Sophia looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "December," she whispered. "December 15th, Polaris Fashion Place. My daughter was lost for 3 hours." Her voice broke. "A K-9 unit found her." Mike Richardson felt his pulse quicken. His hand moved automatically to his phone, pulling up his duty log app. December 15th. He scrolled quickly, his mind racing. There had been so many calls that day. It was the height of holiday shopping season, and the department had been slammed. Then he found it. 12/15/23, 14:30 missing child, Polaris Fashion Place female, age 3, last seen near food court, deployed K-9 track located in maintenance corridor, level 2 child reunited with family, 15:47. Mike's hands trembled slightly as he read the entry. He looked at Rex, who was now sitting perfectly still as Emma gently stroked his head, murmuring things too quiet for anyone else to hear. The dog's expression was calm but focused, his tail giving small, controlled wags. "What's your daughter's name?" Mike asked, his voice hoarse. Emma Martinez." Mike looked at the date again, then at the little girl, then at his partner. "Rex and we were called to 3 emergencies that day," he said slowly, each word heavy with emotion. 3. There was a car accident, a domestic disturbance, and," he paused, swallowing hard, "a missing child at Polaris." Rosa had caught up now, breathing heavily, her hand pressed to her chest. "Dios mío," she gasped, seeing Emma with the dog. "Is that—" "We found her in about 20 minutes, Mike continued, his professional composure cracking. "Rex tracked her scent from the food court through the main concourse, down a staff-only stairwell to a maintenance corridor. She'd followed a mall employee through a door marked authorized personnel only and gotten lost in the back hallways." Sophia nodded vigorously, tears flowing freely now. Yes, that's exactly what happened. The police told me she'd somehow gotten into a restricted area. They said a dog tracked her, but everything was so chaotic and I was so scared, and then you all left so quickly. I never got to properly thank whoever found her. I never even saw." Her voice failed completely. A crowd was gathering now, people sensing that something extraordinary was happening. Cell phones appeared, pointed at the scene. Whispers rippled through the onlookers. Mike crouched down to Emma's level, his eyes wet. "Emma, do you remember that day? Do you remember being lost?" Emma finally looked away from Rex to meet the officer's eyes. She nodded solemnly, then pointed at Rex. "I was scared," she said in a small but clear voice, the most she'd spoken in public in 6 months. "It was dark and I couldn't find Mommy, but then he came." She looked back at Rex with absolute trust. He wasn't scary. He was nice. He found me and stayed with me until Mommy came." Rex, as if understanding every word, leaned forward and gently licked Emma's cheek. The crowd gasped collectively. Several people were openly crying now. Mike had to look away for a moment to compose himself. 15 years as a police officer, hundreds of calls, dozens of rescues, and he'd never, not once, had someone recognize him or Rex from a previous call. Most people they helped they never saw again. They did their job and moved on, never knowing the long-term impact, never receiving closure. "I handed you to the paramedics," Mike said softly to Emma. "There was another emergency, an armed robbery at a convenience store. We had to leave right away. I never knew what happened to you after that. I never knew your name." Sophia dropped to her knees beside her daughter, wrapping one arm around Emma while reaching out with her other hand to grasp Mike's arm. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you. You saved my baby. You brought her back to me. I've wanted to thank you every single day for 6 months, but I didn't know how to find you." Emma, seeing her mother cry, wrapped both arms around Rex's neck in a tight hug. "Don't be sad, Mommy. The nice doggy is here, see. He remembers me too." And incredibly, impossibly, Rex seemed to do exactly that. The highly trained K-9, who tracked hundreds of scents and found dozens of missing persons, rested his head gently against Emma's shoulder and let out a soft, contented sigh. Officer Mike Richardson sat on the grass beside Emma, his duty uniform collecting grass stains he didn't care about, scrolling through his phone with shaking hands. Around them, the crowd had grown to nearly 50 people, all watching in reverent silence as this impossible reunion unfolded. Sergeant Danny Miller stood nearby, his own phone out, coordinating with the department and trying to manage the growing audience. "Here," Mike said, his voice thick with emotion as he pulled up a photo on his phone. "I take pictures of Rex on every call. It's a habit, documenting our work for reports and training. This is from that day." He turned the screen towards Sophia and Rosa. The image showed Rex in a dimly lit corridor, his nose to the ground, clearly tracking. The timestamp read, 12/15/23/15/23. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. That's the hallway. I saw it when they brought me to her." Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks as the fragmented memories of that horrible day began clicking into place like pieces of a devastating puzzle. Mike swiped to the next photo. This one showed Rex sitting alert, and in the background, barely visible but unmistakable, a small figure in a pink winter coat sitting on the floor against a wall. "That's Emma," Sophia gasped. "That's her coat. She was wearing that coat." Rosa leaned in, her weathered hand trembling as she pointed at the screen. "Ay, Dios mío, that's my grandbaby. I bought her that coat at Target just 2 weeks before it happened." Emma, still sitting beside Rex with her arms around his neck, looked up at the phone. "That's me," she said matter-of-factly. "I was waiting for the nice doggy to bring Mommy." The simplicity of her statement broke something in Mike. He'd been trained to stay professional, to maintain emotional distance from the people he served. It was a survival mechanism in a job where you saw tragedy and trauma daily. But this 3-year-old who'd remembered his partner after 6 months, who'd been too traumatized to speak but had found her voice again in this moment, this shattered every wall he'd built. "Can you tell me what you remember, Emma?" Mike asked gently, crouching to her eye level. "About that day when you were lost." Emma looked at her mother as if asking permission. Sophia nodded encouragingly, wiping her tears. "I was looking at the pretty sparkly things," Emma began in her small voice, speaking more than she had in half a year. "The Christmas trees, and there was a door and a man went through it, and I thought maybe Mommy went that way, so I followed. But then the door closed and it was dark and there were lots of hallways and I got lost." Sophia's face crumpled. She'd replayed that moment 1,000 times, torturing herself with what-ifs and if-onlys. If only she'd held Emma's hand tighter. If only she'd been watching more carefully. If only she'd noticed the moment Emma wandered off. I called for you, Mommy, but you didn't come, Emma continued, her voice wobbling slightly. I walked and walked, but everything looked the same. And then I heard scary noises, like big trucks and beeping, and I got really scared. So I sat down and cried. Mike consulted his notes. The maintenance corridor led to the loading dock area. There were delivery trucks that day making holiday deliveries. That must have been the noise you heard. Emma nodded seriously. I thought monsters were coming, but then I heard different sounds, like, she paused, trying to find the words, like sniffing sounds, and then he came around the corner. She squeezed Rex tighter. And he had a light on his collar that glowed, and he came right to me and sniffed me and wagged his tail. And I wasn't scared anymore because he was nice. Mike remembered now, not just the basic facts from the log, but the actual moments. He'd given Rex the command to track, and his partner had taken off with purpose, nose to the ground, following the scent trail through the crowded mall. They'd pushed through holiday shoppers, down a staff stairwell that Emma must have descended into the restricted maintenance area. And when Rex had found her, the dog had immediately shifted from working mode to gentle mode, sensing the child's fear. You stayed with her until we got there, Mike said to Rex, reaching over to scratch behind his partner's ears. I remember now. You wouldn't leave her side. You just sat there keeping her calm until the paramedics arrived. He did more than that, Emma said. He let me hug him, and he was warm and soft, and he made me feel safe. An older woman in the crowd called out, "How is this possible? How does a 3-year-old remember a dog after 6 months?" Dr. Patricia Chen, who happened to be at the fair with her own family, pushed through the crowd. She was Emma's therapist. She'd been working with the Martinez family since January. "May I?" she asked Sophia, who nodded gratefully. Dr. Chen knelt beside the group. "Emma, sweetheart, it's Dr. Chen. Can I ask you a question?" Emma looked up and gave a small wave. "Hi, Dr. Chen." "Emma, did you think about the nice doggy a lot after that day?" Emma nodded vigorously. "Every day, at bedtime, I would think about how he found me and how warm he was. Mommy said the police helped, and I knew it was him. I asked Mommy if we could find him, but she didn't know his name." Dr. Chen looked at Sophia with professional understanding mixed with personal amazement. "You mentioned in our sessions that Emma had trouble sleeping after the incident," she said. "Did she ever tell you what she thought about at night?" Sophia shook her head, tears streaming. "She wouldn't talk about that day. Every time I tried to bring it up, she'd shut down completely. Dr. Chen, you know, she wouldn't discuss it in therapy either. We thought she'd blocked it out." "She didn't block it out," Dr. Chen said softly. "She was processing it in the only way her young mind knew how, by holding onto the positive anchor in that traumatic experience. Rex wasn't part of her trauma. He was her rescue, her safety, her happy ending to a terrifying story." Mike pulled up more photos on his phone, showing Sophia the complete sequence from that day. There were images of Rex tracking through the mall, close-ups of the maintenance corridor, and finally, a photo that made everyone gasp. A shot taken by one of the paramedics showing Rex sitting calmly beside a tiny Emma who had her hand on his back, while the first responders checked her vital signs. "I forgot they sent me this," Mike admitted. "There were 3 major calls that day. By the time my shift ended at midnight, everything was a blur. The robbery turned into a pursuit. Then there was a domestic violence call, then a car accident. I went home, collapsed into bed, and the next day brought new emergencies. That's the reality of police work. You help people, and then you move on because someone else needs help." Rosa spoke for the first time since the revelation, her voice heavy with emotion. "For 6 months, I light a candle every Sunday at church and pray for the people who found Emma. I asked God to bless them. I didn't have names, but I prayed anyway. And I," Sophia added, "I've been saving money. I wanted to do something, make a donation to the K-9 unit, anything, to thank whoever saved my baby. But I didn't know where to start." Sergeant Miller stepped forward. "Officer Richardson, the department should know about this. This is," he paused, clearly moved. This is exactly why we do what we do." Mike nodded but couldn't take his eyes off Emma and Rex. The little girl had started talking to the dog in a whisper, telling him a story about princesses and dragons, completely at ease in a way Sophia said she hadn't seen in months. A photographer from the Columbus Dispatch was in the crowd, having been assigned to cover the community fair. She'd been snapping photos throughout the entire exchange. "This is incredible," she murmured to her colleague. "I've been covering local news for 20 years, and I've never seen anything like this." Emma Martinez sat cross-legged on the grass, both of her small arms wrapped around Rex's neck, whispering secrets that only he could hear. The German Shepherd remained perfectly still, his professional training evident even in this moment of gentleness, but there was something in his eyes, a softness, a recognition, that made everyone watching believe he truly remembered this little girl. "You're such a good boy," Emma murmured, her face pressed against Rex's fur. "The best doggy in the whole world. You saved me when I was scared. You found me in the dark." Officer Mike Richardson watched them, his throat tight with emotion. In 15 years of police work, he'd built walls, necessary walls that let him respond to tragedy without breaking down, that allowed him to witness terrible things and still go home to his own family. But those walls were crumbling now, brick by brick, as he watched this reunion unfold. Sophia Martinez couldn't stop crying. They were good tears now, tears of relief, gratitude, and joy. But they flowed just as freely as the tears of terror she'd cried 6 months ago. She knelt beside her daughter, one hand on Emma's back, the other covering her mouth as sobs shook her shoulders. "You saved my baby," Sophia said, looking up at Mike through her tears. "You brought her back to me. I've replayed that day 1,000,000 times in my head, every moment, every second. The moment I turned around and she was gone, the panic, the fear, the absolute terror of not knowing if I'd ever see her again." Her voice broke completely. "I thought I'd lost her forever. 3 hours felt like 3 years. And then they told me a K-9 unit found her, and I was so grateful, but everything was such a blur. And then you were gone, off to another call, and I never got to really thank you." Mike crouched down, his own eyes wet. "Ma'am, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," Sophia interrupted firmly, wiping her face with trembling hands. "You need to understand what you did. You didn't just find a lost child. You brought my whole world back to me. Emma is everything. She's my only child. She's my heart walking around outside my body. When she was gone, I died 1,000 deaths imagining what might happen to her." Rosa moved closer, placing her weathered hand on Mike's shoulder. "My son, Sophia's brother, he died when Sophia was pregnant with Emma," she said quietly. "Cancer very fast, 3 months from diagnosis to—" She couldn't finish. "Emma was born 2 months after we buried him. This little girl, she brought light back into our darkness. She gave us a reason to smile again. When she was lost, it was like we might lose everything all over again." An elderly man in the crowd called out, "God bless you, officer. God bless you and that beautiful dog." Others began applauding, slowly at first, then building into a wave of appreciation that swept through the gathered crowd. People were crying openly now, hardened fathers with tears on their faces, mothers clutching their own children closer, teenagers recording the moment on their phones with shaking hands. Emma looked up, startled by the noise and attention. Her arms tightened around Rex, and for a moment, Sophia worried her daughter might retreat back into her shell. But then Emma did something that made Sophia's heart soar. She smiled. A real, genuine, ear-to-ear smile that lit up her entire face. "Everyone's happy about the nice doggy," Emma observed, looking around at the crowd with wonder. "They sure are, sweetheart," Mike said, his voice rough with emotion. "Rex has helped a lot of people, but I think you might be his most special rescue." Sergeant Danny Miller had been on his phone, and now he approached Mike with an urgent expression. "Sir, the captain wants to talk to you. Channel 10 News is here covering the fair, and they got wind of what's happening. The whole thing is about to go viral." Viral, Sophia asked, confused. Danny gestured to the crowd where at least 20 people were holding up phones, recording. Ma'am, this is the kind of story that makes people believe in goodness again. A traumatized child recognizing her rescuer after 6 months. A K-9 who didn't forget. The reunion happening by pure chance at a community fair. This is going to be everywhere by tonight. A woman pushed through the crowd. Jennifer Walsh from Channel 10 News, microphone in hand, cameraman following. Officer Richardson, can we get a statement? We've been hearing about what happened here, and our viewers would love to know the story. Mike looked at Sophia questioningly. It's up to you, ma'am. This is your family's story as much as it is ours. Sophia looked at Emma, who was still happily petting Rex, completely absorbed in the moment. She thought about the past 6 months, the silence, the fear, the slow and painful healing process. And then she looked at her daughter now, talking, smiling, engaged with the world in a way she hadn't been since December. Okay, Sophia said. If it helps other people, if it reminds people that there are heroes out there, that good things can happen, then okay. Jennifer knelt down with her microphone, keeping a respectful distance. Sweetie, can you tell me about the doggy? How do you know him? Emma looked at the microphone, then at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. He found me when I was lost, Emma said clearly. I was scared and it was dark and I couldn't find my mommy, but he came and he was nice and warm and he stayed with me, and now I found him again. The simplicity and honesty of her words made Jennifer's professional composure crack. She blinked rapidly, clearly fighting tears. And you remembered him, after all this time? Emma nodded seriously. I think about him every night before I go to sleep. I wanted to say thank you, but Mommy didn't know where he was, but now he's here. She hugged Rex again. I can say thank you now. Thank you, nice doggy. You're my hero. The cameraman zoomed in on Emma's face, capturing the pure joy and innocence there. Then he panned to Rex, who seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, sitting with perfect posture, his tail wagging slowly, his eyes gentle as he watched the little girl. Mike cleared his throat, trying to maintain some semblance of professional composure. Rex and I were just doing our job. K-9 units across the country do this kind of work every day, finding missing people, tracking suspects, keeping communities safe. We don't do it for recognition. We do it because it's right. But it matters, an Asian woman in the crowd called out. She stepped forward, holding a toddler of her own. I'm Lisa Chen. My daughter wandered away at the zoo last year. She was missing for 45 minutes before security found her. I know exactly what this family went through. What you do, what all first responders do, it matters more than you can possibly know. Others in the crowd nodded, murmuring agreement. A veteran in a baseball cap saluted Mike. A young mother wiped her eyes. An older couple held hands, clearly moved by the scene before them. Rosa suddenly stepped forward and did something that surprised everyone. She wrapped her arms around Mike in a tight embrace. Gracias, mijo, she whispered in his ear. Gracias por traer a mi nieta de vuelta. Thank you for bringing my granddaughter back. Mike hugged her back, this strong woman who'd clearly been through so much, and felt something shift in his chest. He'd always known his job was important, but the daily grind of it, the paperwork, the difficult calls, the criticism from the public, the long hours away from his own family, sometimes made him forget why he'd become a police officer in the first place. This moment reminded him, this was why. Emma suddenly stood up, walked over to Mike, and tugged on his uniform pants. Mr. Police Officer. Mike knelt down to her level. Yes, Emma. Can I give you a hug, too, for bringing the nice doggy to find me? Mike's composure finally broke completely. Tears streamed down his face as he opened his arms, and Emma stepped into them, wrapping her tiny arms around his neck. Thank you for saving me, she whispered. You're welcome, brave girl, Mike managed to say. You're so welcome. The crowd erupted in applause again, and this time it was thunderous. People were cheering, crying, celebrating this moment of pure human connection and gratitude. Cell phone cameras captured every second, and the footage would indeed go viral. But in this moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was a little girl who'd found her voice again. What mattered was a family's gratitude, finally reaching the man who'd helped them. What mattered was a dog who'd done his job with skill and compassion. What mattered was remembering that in a world that often felt dark and scary, there were still heroes, both human and canine, who showed up when needed most. By Sunday morning, the world had changed for Officer Mike Richardson, 3-year-old Emma Martinez, and K9 Rex. Mike woke at 6 a.m. to the sound of his phone buzzing incessantly on his nightstand. Not just notifications, full-blown calls, one after another. Groggily, he reached for the device and immediately sat bolt upright in bed. His screen showed 247 missed calls, 1,843 text messages, and notifications that had long since stopped counting. "What the hell?" he muttered, opening his phone. His wife Jennifer stirred beside him. "Mike, what's wrong? Is it work?" Mike's eyes widened as he scrolled through messages from people he hadn't spoken to in years. His high school buddy from 20 years ago, his cousin in Florida, his former training officer who'd retired to Arizona, even his second-grade teacher. All of them saying the same thing: "I saw you on the news. You're famous. The video is everywhere." "Jen, wake up," Mike said, shaking her shoulder. "Something's happened." He opened Twitter, now X, and his jaw dropped. Trending at 2 in the United States, K9 Rex reunion. He clicked on it and found himself staring at videos, photos, and news articles about yesterday's fair. The main video, the one that had apparently gone viral, showed Emma running toward Rex, her clear voice shouting, "That's the nice doggy. He found me," followed by the emotional reunion. The video had been viewed 15 million times, in less than 24 hours. "Oh my God," Jennifer breathed, looking over his shoulder. "Mike, that's you, that's Rex, you're everywhere." Mike scrolled through the comments, his hands trembling. "I'm literally sobbing. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Dogs never forget, never. This proves it. After everything terrible in the news lately, I needed this story so badly." That little girl recognized her hero after 6 months. Children are incredible. The way that dog just sits there and lets her hug him. "I'm not crying, you're crying." This is what police officers do every day that we don't see. Thank you for your service. The video had been shared by major news outlets: CNN, NBC, ABC, Fox News, BBC, even international stations in Germany, Japan, and Australia. Good Morning America had posted it with the caption, "A reunion 6 months in the making. 3-year-old recognizes K9 who saved her life." Mike's phone rang again. This time it was Captain Morris from the Columbus Police Department. "Richardson, are you seeing this?" the captain asked without preamble. "Just woke up to it, sir." The department's phone has been ringing off the hook since 5 a.m. NBC wants you and Rex on the Today Show. Ellen DeGeneres' people called. So did Good Morning America, Kelly Clarkson, and half a dozen local stations. The mayor wants to give you a commendation. The governor's office called. "Mike, do you understand what's happening?" Mike looked at Jennifer, who was now reading comments on her own phone, tears streaming down her face. "Not really, sir. You and Rex have become national heroes overnight. This story is exactly what the country needs right now, a reminder that good people doing good work still exist. How do you want to handle this?" Mike thought about Emma's face when she'd recognized Rex, the pure joy, the healing that had happened in those moments. "Whatever helps the most people, sir. If telling this story inspires others or gives people hope, then we'll do whatever's needed." Across town, Sophia Martinez was experiencing her own version of the same whirlwind. She'd posted the reunion video to her personal Facebook page Saturday evening, tagging it, "The miracle we'd been praying for." She had 237 friends on Facebook, mostly family, coworkers, and other parents from Emma's daycare. By Sunday morning, that post had been shared 89,000 times. Her phone was dead, the battery drained from the overnight deluge of notifications. When she plugged it in and turned it on, it immediately began vibrating so violently it fell off her nightstand. "Mama," she called out, "Mama, come here." Rosa rushed in, already dressed for Sunday Mass. "What is it, Mija?" Sophia showed her the phone. "The video, the one I posted, everyone's seen it, everyone in the whole world." They sat together on Sophia's bed, scrolling through messages from strangers. "Thank you for sharing this. My daughter was lost at Disney World last year and I've never been the same. Seeing Emma so happy and healed gives me hope. I'm a police K-9 handler in Texas. This is why we do what we do. Please tell your daughter she's incredibly brave. I lost my son in a mall when he was 4. We found him, but the trauma never fully went away. Seeing how Emma remembered her rescuer and how that reunion helped her heal, I'm crying happy tears." Sophia checked on Emma, who was still sleeping peacefully, clutching the stuffed dog that Rosa had bought her at the fair yesterday, one that looked remarkably like Rex. "She's been sleeping through the night," Sophia whispered to her mother. "For the first time in 6 months, she didn't wake up crying." Rosa crossed herself. "Dios es bueno, God is good." Sophia's phone rang, a New York number. Hesitantly, she answered. "Ms. Martinez, this is Sarah Chen from the Today Show. We would love to have you, Emma, Officer Richardson, and Rex on our program this week. We'd fly you to New York, put you up in a hotel, and—" I need to think about it," Sophia stammered. "This is all very overwhelming." "Of course. We'll send you an email with details. Take your time. But Ms. Martinez, the world is falling in love with your daughter's story. It's giving people hope." By noon on Sunday, the story had evolved beyond just a viral video. Major news outlets were running full segments. CNN interviewed child psychologists about trauma, memory, and healing. NBC spoke with K-9 trainers about the bond between working dogs and the people they help. Fox News ran a piece on the importance of law enforcement K-9 units and their funding needs. Celebrities began weighing in. Ellen DeGeneres tweeted, "This story is everything. That little girl's memory, that dog's gentle spirit, that officer's dedication. I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm definitely crying." K-9 Rex reunion. Chris Evans, Captain America himself, posted, "Real heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear badges and fur. This made my whole week." Oprah's Instagram featured the video with the caption, "When I tell you I sobbed, this is what miracles look like." The Columbus Police Department's social media following increased by 50,000 in a single day. Donations to their K-9 unit fund poured in $5, $20, $100 at a time, from people across the country who wanted to support the work Rex and dogs like him were doing. A GoFundMe appeared, created by someone Sophia didn't even know, titled, "Help Emma's Family Thank K-9 Rex." By Sunday evening, it had raised $47,000, with donations from all 50 states and 12 countries. The Columbus Dispatch ran a front-page story with the headline, "A Child's Memory, a Dog's Heart, How One K-9 Changed Everything." Local businesses wanted to help. A restaurant offered free meals to the Martinez family for a year. A local photographer offered a free family photo session. A child therapist reached out offering pro bono services for Emma. A pet supply company sent a year's worth of premium dog food and treats for Rex. Mike's daughters, 15-year-old Samantha and 12-year-old Ashley, were experiencing their own version of the phenomenon at school. "Dad, my Instagram has blown up," Samantha shouted, running into the living room where Mike was trying to catch his breath between phone calls. "Everyone at school has seen the video. Mrs. Peterson, my English teacher, showed it in class and everyone cried, "Dad, you're famous." Ashley was more practical. "The principal wants to know if Rex can come to our school for an assembly. Can he, please?" Mike looked at Rex, who was napping peacefully on his dog bed, completely unaware that he was now one of the most famous dogs in America. "We'll see, sweetheart. Rex might be a little busy for a while." That was an understatement. The Columbus Police Department was fielding hundreds of requests, schools wanting K-9 demonstrations, news programs wanting interviews, podcasts wanting to tell the story, authors wanting to write books, even a movie producer from Los Angeles who thought the story would make a beautiful film. By Monday morning, the video had been viewed 42 million times across all platforms. It had been translated into Spanish, Mandarin, French, German, and Arabic. International news stations ran the story. A Japanese news program did a whole segment on the healing power of animals. A British tabloid ran the headline, "The Dog Who Never Forgot, a Tale of True Heroism." Emma's video was being shown in elementary schools as an example of bravery and gratitude. Police academies were using it in K-9 training programs. Therapy dog organizations were sharing it to demonstrate the bond between humans and animals. The story had transcended its original moment. It had become something bigger, a symbol of hope, healing, and the unbreakable bonds that form in moments of crisis. But for Mike Richardson, lying in bed Monday night with his phone finally silenced, none of that mattered as much as the single text message he'd received from Sophia Martinez that evening. "Emma slept through the night again. She told me she dreamed about Rex and wasn't scared. She's talking more, laughing more, being herself again. Whatever happens with all this attention, please know you gave me my daughter back, twice. Thank you will never be enough. Sophia." Mike saved the message, turned off his phone and closed his eyes, finally letting himself believe that maybe, just maybe, the universe had orchestrated this reunion for a reason. 3 weeks after the viral reunion, Sophia Martinez sat in Dr. Patricia Chen's office, watching through a one-way mirror as Emma played in the therapy room. The change in her daughter was nothing short of miraculous. Emma was building a tower out of blocks, narrating the entire process in a clear, confident voice. "And this one goes here, and the princess lives at the top, and she has a dog who protects her from dragons, and his name is Rex." Dr. Chen stood beside Sophia, clipboard in hand, shaking her head in professional amazement. "In 15 years of child psychology, I've never seen a breakthrough quite like this," she said softly. "Emma's progress in 3 weeks has exceeded what I would normally expect in 6 months of intensive therapy." Sophia wiped her eyes. She seemed to cry all the time now, but they were good tears. "It's like I got my real daughter back, the Emma from before the incident. She sings again, Dr. Chen. Yesterday she sang 'Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star' while brushing her teeth. I just stood in the bathroom doorway and sobbed." "The reunion gave her something crucial," Dr. Chen explained, making notes. "It transformed her narrative. She's no longer just a victim of a traumatic event. She's a brave girl who got lost, was rescued by a hero dog, and was reunited with that hero. That's a story of courage and hope, not just fear and trauma." Sophia's phone buzzed with a text from Mike Richardson. "Saturday at 10. Emma's weekly Rex visit. My daughters want to join this time if that's okay." Sophia smiled and typed back, "Perfect. Emma's already asking when she gets to see her Rex again." The weekly visits had started small. Just Emma, Sophia, and Rosa meeting Mike and Rex at Goodell Park for an hour on Saturday mornings. But they'd evolved into something neither family had anticipated, a genuine friendship. That Saturday, Mike arrived with not just Rex, but his wife Jennifer and their 2 daughters, Samantha and Ashley. The girls had been begging to meet Emma ever since the video went viral. "There he is!" Emma shrieked with joy the moment she spotted Rex. She broke free from Sophia's hand and ran, Not the panicked running of someone scared, but the excited running of a child greeting her best friend. Rex's tail began wagging the moment he saw her, and Mike released the leash. Dog and child met in the middle of the park path, Emma dropping to her knees to hug Rex while the German Shepherd gently licked her face. "She's so brave," Samantha whispered to her father watching the reunion. At 15, she was at that age where showing emotion was uncool, but tears glittered in her eyes anyway. "They're both brave," Mike replied, his hand resting on his daughter's shoulder. Ashley, ever the practical one, had brought a bag full of tennis balls and dog toys. "Can Emma and I play fetch with Rex?" she asked. "If her mom says it's okay." For the next 2 hours, the two families existed in a bubble of joy and normalcy. Ashley taught Emma how to throw a tennis ball properly so Rex could catch it. Samantha showed Emma photos on her phone of Rex as a puppy in K9 training. Jennifer and Sophia sat on a park bench, swapping parenting stories and becoming fast friends. Rosa had brought homemade empanadas, and the families shared an impromptu picnic lunch on blankets spread across the grass. "Emma," Mike called gently, "can I show you something cool that Rex can do?" Emma nodded eagerly, settling beside him with Rex's head in her lap. Mike pulled out a small towel and his wallet. "Watch this." He showed Emma the wallet, then walked 20 feet away and dropped it in the grass. "Rex, find it." The German Shepherd immediately went to work, nose to the ground, tracking in a systematic pattern until he located the wallet. He picked it up gently in his mouth and trotted back to Mike, sitting and offering the wallet up. Emma clapped with delight. "He's so smart." "Want to try?" Mike asked. "Hide something of yours and Rex will find it." Emma thought for a moment, then took off her small pink shoe. With Mike's help, she walked to a cluster of trees and placed the shoe behind one. Then she returned to Rex. "Find my shoe, Rex." The dog worked his magic again, locating the shoe within 30 seconds and bringing it back to Emma, who erupted in giggles. "He's the best doggy in the whole universe," Emma declared, hugging Rex again. Over the following weeks, the visits became therapeutic in ways none of them had fully anticipated. During their 4th visit, Emma asked Mike something that made everyone pause. "Mr. Mike, why did Rex come find me that day? How did he know I was lost?" Mike knelt beside her, grateful for the question. It meant Emma was processing the experience in a healthy way. "Well, Emma, Rex has a very special nose. Dogs can smell about 100,000 times better than people. When your mom told the police what you were wearing and where you'd last been seen, I gave Rex something with your scent on it. I think it was your jacket. And Rex's job is to follow that scent, like following a path only he can see." Emma's eyes widened, like a superhero power. "Exactly like that. Rex is a superhero with a super nose. And he used his power to save me." "He did, because that's what heroes do. They help people who need them." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she looked at Rex with absolute adoration. "You're my superhero, Rex." By the 6th week, the visits had expanded to include field trips. Mike took the Martinez family to the Columbus Police Department's K9 training facility, where Emma got to watch other police dogs work. She was fascinated by the obstacle courses, the scent detection demonstrations, and especially by the other K9 handlers who all knew Rex and had seen the viral video. Officer Sarah Kim, handler of a Belgian Malinois named Max, showed Emma how the dogs were trained. "We start when they're puppies," she explained, letting Emma pet Max. "We teach them that finding things is a game and they love playing the game." "Is it hard?" Emma asked. "It takes a lot of practice, but these dogs are very smart and they love to work. Just like Rex loved finding you, it made him happy to help." Emma seemed to stand a little taller after that visit. Sophia noticed her daughter telling other kids at daycare about her police dog friend and how K9 units help people. The 7th week brought an unexpected moment of healing for Mike as well. Emma had drawn a picture at daycare, a crayon drawing of a little girl, a big dog, and a police officer. She'd titled it in her wobbly 3-year-old handwriting, "The Day Rex Saved Me." She presented it to Mike at their Saturday visit. "This is for you and Rex," she said, "so you always remember that you're heroes." Mike took the picture with shaking hands. He'd been in law enforcement for 15 years. He'd received commendations, awards, certificates of appreciation. But none of them had ever meant as much as this crayon drawing from a 3-year-old who'd remembered him and his partner. "Emma, can I tell you something?" Mike asked, his voice thick with emotion. She nodded seriously. "Sometimes police officers have hard days. We see sad things and we help people who are scared or hurt. And sometimes we wonder if what we do really matters. But you and your family, you've reminded me why I became a police officer, to help people, to make them safe, to be there when someone needs us." Emma thought about this, then patted his hand with her small one. "You matter, Mr. Mike. You and Rex matter so much." Jennifer Richardson, watching from a few feet away, felt her heart swell with pride for her husband. She'd seen him struggle with the weight of the job over the years, coming home exhausted and emotionally drained. But these visits with Emma had brought a lightness back to him, a reminder of the good he did in the world. During their 9th visit, Emma did something that made everyone cry. She brought a present for Rex. It was a hand-painted picture frame containing a photo from the reunion at the fair, showing Emma hugging Rex. She decorated the frame with stickers of stars, hearts, and dog bones. "This is for Rex's house," Emma explained, "so he remembers me too." Mike hung it in his living room that very day in a place of honor above the fireplace. Every time he looked at it, he was reminded that the job he did, the sacrifices his family made, the difficult calls and long hours, they all mattered. Because somewhere out there was a little girl who was whole again, who sang and laughed and played, who wasn't afraid anymore. And that made everything worth it. 8 months after that fateful June day at the community fair, Officer Mike Richardson stood at attention in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Columbus Police Department headquarters. His dress uniform was crisp and perfect, his shoes polished to a mirror shine, his badges gleaming under the fluorescent lights. But his hands trembled slightly as he held Rex's leash, not from nerves, but from emotion he could barely contain. Today was Rex's official retirement ceremony. The assembly hall was packed with nearly 300 people, police officers, city officials, K-9 handlers from across Ohio, members of the media, and sitting in the front row of reserved seats, Emma Martinez, now 4 years old, wearing a special purple dress that Rosa had made just for this occasion. Beside Emma sat Sophia and Rosa, all 3 of them holding hands. Behind them were Mike's wife Jennifer and his daughters, Samantha and Ashley. In the past 8 months, the Richardson and Martinez families had become inseparable, sharing holidays, birthdays, Sunday dinners, and countless Saturday park visits. Captain Morris approached the podium, and the room fell silent except for the clicking of cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to honor a remarkable member of our force," the captain began, his voice carrying through the room. "K-9 Rex, badge number K-9247, has served the Columbus Police Department with distinction for 9 years. In that time, he has been instrumental in 127 search and rescue operations, assisted in 89 arrests, detected narcotics in 43 cases, and touched countless lives in our community." The audience applauded, and Rex's ears perked up at the sound, though he remained sitting calmly beside Mike. "But statistics alone cannot capture the true measure of Rex's service," Captain Morris continued. "Because sometimes the most important thing a police officer, whether human or canine, can do is be there when someone needs help, to bring hope in the darkest moments, to never give up when searching for those who are lost." Emma wiggled in her seat, excited but trying to stay still like her mother had asked. In her lap, She clutched a piece of construction paper that she'd worked on for weeks, her special present for Rex. 9 years ago, we welcomed Rex to our K-9 unit as a 2-year-old German Shepherd with exceptional tracking abilities, the captain said. Today, at 11 years old, Rex has earned his retirement. Officer Richardson, would you please bring Rex forward? Mike's throat was tight as he walked Rex to the center of the room, positioning them before the assembly. This dog had been more than just a partner. Rex had been his companion through divorce proceedings that ended in reconciliation, his support during his father's illness and death, his constant presence through every difficult call and traumatic scene. Captain Morris approached them, holding a shadow box containing Rex's official K-9 badge, collar, and a commendation. Officer Richardson, it is my honor to officially retire K-9 Rex from active duty. He has served with courage, loyalty, and distinction. May his retirement be filled with the peace and comfort he has earned. Mike knelt beside Rex and slowly, carefully removed the working dog vest that Rex had worn for 9 years. The gesture was symbolic. Rex was no longer a working K-9. He was free to just be a dog, to sleep late, to play without duty calling. The room erupted in applause, and Rex's tail wagged, seeming to understand that something important was happening. And now, Captain Morris said with a smile, we have a very special presentation. Emma Martinez, would you please come forward? Emma looked up at her mother with wide eyes. Sophia nodded encouragingly, squeezing her daughter's hand. Go ahead, Mija. It's your turn. Emma stood up, clutching her construction paper, and walked to the center of the room. She looked so small standing there, this tiny 4-year-old in her purple dress, but she walked with confidence that would have been unimaginable 8 months ago. Mike helped her up onto a small platform so everyone could see her. Hello, Emma said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong, so different from the silent, traumatized child she'd been. My name is Emma Martinez, and Rex is my hero. The room was completely silent, everyone hanging on her words. When I was 3 years old, I got lost in a big scary place, Emma continued, her small voice steady. I was very scared and I cried, but then Rex found me. He wasn't scary. He was nice and warm, and he stayed with me until my mommy came. He saved me. Sophia was crying silently in the front row, as were many others in the audience. Emma held up her construction paper, a drawing she'd created showing a little girl, a big dog with a cape, and the words "MY Hero," written in increasingly neat letters that showed her progress over months of practice. I made this for Rex because he's the best dog in the whole world, Emma said. He's brave and smart and he helps people. When I grow up, I want to help people too, just like Rex. She turned to Rex and with Mike's help showed him the drawing. Thank you for saving me, Rex. I love you. Then she did something that made every single person in that room reach for tissues. She carefully hung a handmade medal around Rex's neck. It was constructed from cardboard covered in gold glitter, with a star in the center and the word hero, written in Emma's own handwriting. Rex, ever gentle, sat perfectly still as Emma hugged him tightly. His tail wagged slowly, and he leaned into her embrace as if to say, "You're welcome, little one. I'd do it again in a heartbeat." The applause was thunderous. Officers who'd seen the worst of humanity stood and clapped with tears streaming down their faces. The mayor was crying. Even the hardened reporters from the local news stations were wiping their eyes. Mike scooped Emma up in one arm, keeping his other hand on Rex's head, and the three of them stood together. The officer, the hero dog, and the child whose life had been forever changed by their meeting. After the ceremony, Captain Morris made another announcement. The Columbus Police Department is proud to launch the Rex Foundation, a new community outreach program inspired by Emma and Rex's story. This foundation will provide education about K-9 units, support for families affected by trauma, and funding for additional K-9 officers throughout Ohio. Because as Emma has shown us, The work these dogs do changes lives in ways we cannot measure. The initiative had been funded in part by the hundreds of thousands of dollars donated by people around the world who'd been touched by Emma and Rex's story. Sophia had insisted that the GoFundMe money raised for her family be redirected to help others, and this foundation was the result. That evening, Mike brought Rex home, not to the K9 kennels where he'd spent his working nights, but home to the Richardson house permanently. Rex explored his new life as a family pet, discovering that retirement meant sleeping on the couch, getting extra treats, and having 2 teenage girls who spoiled him constantly. But every Saturday morning, like clockwork, Rex would wait by the door at 9:30 a.m., his tail wagging with excitement. Because he knew what Saturday meant. It meant Emma. The visits continued, even in retirement. Emma would arrive with Sophia and Rosa, always bringing a new drawing or a special treat for Rex. Sometimes they'd go to the park. Sometimes they'd just sit in the Richardsons' backyard while Emma told Rex elaborate stories about princesses and dragons and brave dogs who saved the day. On Emma's 5th birthday, the Richardson family threw a surprise party with a special guest of honor, Rex, wearing a party hat that Ashley had made. Emma's birthday wish, when she blew out her candles, was whispered to Rex, "I wish we can be friends forever and ever." 2 years after the reunion, Emma started kindergarten. On the first day, her teacher asked each child to share something special about themselves. Emma stood proudly in front of her classmates and said, "I have a police dog friend named Rex. He's a hero who saves people. He saved me when I was lost, and now we're best friends. When I grow up, I'm going to be a police officer with a K9 partner, just like Officer Mike, so I can help people too." Sophia, hearing this story from the teacher, called Mike that evening. "She wants to be just like you," she said, her voice full of emotion. "You didn't just save her that day, you showed her what courage and service look like." On a crisp autumn afternoon 3 years after the retirement ceremony, Mike sat on his porch watching Emma, now 7 years old, play fetch with an aging but still energetic Rex. The German Shepherd moved slower now, his muzzle gray with age, but his eyes still lit up when Emma arrived. Jennifer brought Mike a cup of coffee and sat beside him. "You know what I realized," she said. "That day at the fair when Emma recognized Rex, it saved both of them." Mike looked at his wife puzzled. "Both of them." Emma needed to find her hero to heal, but you needed to be reminded that you are a hero. You'd been so burned out questioning whether any of it mattered. And then this little girl showed you it all matters. Every call, every search, every life you touch. Mike watched Emma hug Rex, the little girl whispering secrets to the old dog who'd never forgotten her. "You're right," he said softly. "She saved me too.